Welcome back to the Nasdaq Market Site. I'm Jill Malandrino, business correspondent for the Voice of America, and we are live from the Africa Investor Investment Summit. And for this particular panel, we're going to focus on African capital markets advancements that we've seen over the course of the past year. I'm excited about this panel because we actually have a member from the data side of the business joining us this year. So Sunil, let's start with you. Welcome back to the Market Site. Just run down the line, introduce yourselves and your affiliations.
Yeah, I'm Sunil Benimadu, and I'm the Chief Executive of the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. And we also, Stock Exchange of Mauritius is a member of the African Securities Exchanges Association, and we're also a member of the World Federation of Exchanges.
Okay, well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Ido.
I am Edu Kosiemenunve. I am the CEO of the BRVM. BRVM is the unique stock exchange that is shared by the 8 Francophone countries in West Africa. And I am also the chairman of the WACMIC, what is the West African Market Integration Council.
All right, we'll move on to our newest member from the data side of the business. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Chait Kondragunta. I'm the founder and managing director of a company called Analytics Insight. That's a Toronto-listed company, and along with Africa Investor, we've just announced a joint portal to supply high-end data, analytics, and financial information on all African companies, aianalytics.com.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And Oscar, welcome back to the Market Site.
Thank you, Jill. My name is Oscar Onyema. I'm the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I'm also the president of the African Securities Exchanges Association. The Nigerian Stock Exchange provides services across trading, listing, market data, and indices. And we're members of the World Federation of Exchanges.
Well, I think there's a lot of growth in the capital markets right now because of the increase of transparency. So let's talk about some of the advancements that you've seen in Mauritius this year, some of the big announcements that you've had.
Well, first of all, I think from a performance standpoint, Mauritius has started 2017 on a very strong footing. On a year-to-date basis, the main indices have grown by 21%, and this has essentially been achieved on the back of solid macroeconomic growth, but more importantly on the back of solid earnings growth by some of the listed stocks. In terms of new initiatives, I think what we've seen this year is that what we started a few years ago in terms of the internationalization process of Mauritius has borne further fruits this year. We've listed 18 new securities, and most of these new securities are non-Mauritian related securities. And these companies, these new companies that have listed, have raised almost $1 billion on the exchange through our multi-currency capital raising, listing, trading, and settlement platform, which would allow an issuer to raise capital in dollars, euro, British pound, South African rand, and Mauritian rupee, list and trade and settle in any of those currencies. And one very important development that we are expecting in the coming weeks is the listing of the first Pan-African supranational companies underlying shares in the form of depository receipts, and that would be listed by Afrexim Bank. They are planning to raise a minimum of $100 million and scaling this up to a potential of $300 million, and they've chosen to list that in Mauritius for a number of reasons: the openness of Mauritius as a capital market, as a jurisdiction, the flexibility that Mauritius offers and that the Stock Exchange of Mauritius offers in terms of the ability for an African issuer to list in dollars and tap the international market from international investors in dollars. So this is an interesting development that we think would also give more credence to the positioning of the Stock Exchange of Mauritius as an attractive and compelling capital raising, listing, trading, and settlement platform for very specific Africa-focused ventures.
Okay, Ido, let's get to West African exchange updates.
Yes, I can say that the BRVM is slowing down since 2015 after 3 years of fast growing, 30% on average during the last 3 years. The reason is that many of our investors are cashing in the capital gain as they have very good performance during the last 3 years. But what is important to say is that our market is attracting more and more companies. Last year we have listed 4 new companies on the market. This year we'll have 2 new IPOs, so we can say that the market becomes more attractive for the companies. We can say also that we are attracting more and more investors, retail investors, because of the fact that we have split many of the stocks shares in the market, and that contribute to increase the liquidity in the market and attract retail investors. We are trying to modernize our bond market. Actually, we have 43 listed bonds, sovereign bond, international financial institution bonds, and private companies bond. We think that is important also to develop our bond market to finance the needs in terms of infrastructure and development of private companies in the region.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chait. We'll get right back to you. But Oscar, let's get an update on the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
As you know, the Nigerian Stock Exchange services the largest economy on the continent. And year to date, we're up about 35%, the all-share index. I think this is really driven by the fact that we are rotating out of the commodity super cycle that we've witnessed in the last 2 years where you had a downturn. And it's also driven by policy shifts in FX that have allowed for market-determined prices for inflows that are coming in to invest in the market. So we now have the investor-exporter window that is a credible market for foreign exchange, and that makes it a lot easier for investors, foreign investors that participate in the market to repatriate their dividends and capital gains. We continue to provide a robust marketplace that covers multiple asset classes from exchange-traded funds to equities to fixed income. And we've seen significant growth in fixed income markets from a listing perspective and from a trading perspective. Indeed, trading volumes in fixed income last year increased about 138%. We think that because market data and market services is the fastest growing part of our business, that you will continue to see significantly more innovation as we distribute different types of transparency products across the world. Right. We're also seeing increasing flows coming from areas, from countries where we did not see flows before. As you know, our traditional split is 50-50, 50% domestic and 50% foreign, with about 49% of the foreign number coming from London as an international financial center, and 20% from the US, 5% from the Middle East, 2% from Asia, and then the rest from South Africa. We're beginning to see flows coming from Mauritius, and we think that is an interesting dynamic. We're also working with exchanges around the continent and around the globe to drive linkages that will make us present a deeper pool of capital for investors around the world, and also to create products that will be interesting for investors that are looking to participate in our market. The last point I wanted to make is that on the domestic side, we continue to see significant growth in our pension assets. And so Nigeria is becoming more and more, our capital markets, a hub for raising not only capital for companies in the country, but also for companies that are looking to operate across the continent.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So, Chait, I would imagine with all of this growth with the respective African exchanges, the need for data and services is exponential.
You're right. I mean, along with all the growth that we're seeing in various African exchanges, there's always the persistent question in terms of, what's the quality of the data? How do I access good data? These are the kind of questions that investors of all stripes keep asking. And that's where a company like ours and the venture that we have comes in handy. We've been about democratizing financial information, taking lots of different financial data sources, and then adding on a research and analytics layer on top. And that's what we've done even with the companies in Africa. So today we probably publish a research updated daily on almost 1,200 African listed stocks, which is probably the largest footprint out there, because that's pretty much every listed stock across every African exchange. And that's the sort of power of the platform that we've built. And we use this platform, one, to work with exchanges themselves, because most exchanges certainly have a charter in terms of educating and empowering their investor base. So we help do that by providing information on their listed companies, not just data, but also research and analysis on these companies. That's one. Right. Then we also work with exchanges on their data assets themselves to add further value to it, so that they can supply it to other market participants, institutional investors, asset managers, those kind of constituencies. We help them monitor company performance, keep tabs on what's happening on a daily basis, and be able to make better informed investment decisions.
So do you think that exchange consolidation might be the next topic on the continent, or do you think fragmentation of the exchanges is what's working now?
Well, I think, as Oscar has rightly pointed out, what is very important today for exchanges, first of all, I think exchanges should grow their size, their liquidity internally, but simultaneously they should be able to try to establish linkages across the different regions of Africa. For example, in Southern Africa, we have been discussing with exchanges in the region to see how we could use technology to cross-link our markets, so that investors from, let's say, Botswana could trade in Mauritius listed shares and vice versa. At the continental level, as Oscar has mentioned, there is a project that is currently being promoted by the African Development Bank and a number of exchanges in Africa to try to use technology to cross-link these markets with the same objective of bringing more liquidity, ensuring that investors across the continent could be trading across each other's exchanges. So all this, I think, are very important initiatives that will definitely set the scene for a deepening and a broadening of capital markets within the African exchange space. Consolidation in terms of acquisition, I don't think this will happen in the near term. Right. I think what we may also see is exchanges opening up their capital structure in terms of strategic alliances with exchanges in Africa or outside of Africa. So basically, I think the way forward is for greater integration of markets, better linkages, cross-border investments, right, and trying to enlarge the investor space for investors to look at, the different products that
That's
are
interesting. We talk about that here in the U.S. as well, about the exchanges coming together to improve market structure, because it is quite complex on a level like the U.S. capital markets. We're almost out of time here, so I just want to run down the line with you. Ido, we'll start first. Where's the next opportunity?
In our region, if we see what we have done at the Francophone level as BRVM, we think that integration is very important for stock exchanges in Africa. Because when we see our case, we have a common market that is shared by the 8 countries. So any investor can access the same platform at the same moment, and any investor in any country can be active on only one market. And the government also can raise money from the 8 countries to finance the needs in terms of long-term investment. We are trying to do the same thing at the ECOWAS level with our 15 countries that are members of the regional organization. Nigeria, Ghana, BRVM, and Cape Verde, and the other stock exchanges. What is important for us is not to have a unique market for the 15 countries, but a unique platform, a big platform right, that can be accessible for investors, and that can be give opportunity for company to raise money and also that can be an opportunity for investor also to diversify the investment. I think that is the future, because even if we try to develop our market at the internal level, we need to have a bigger market that can be more attractive for local international investors.
All right, well, I'm sorry, guys. We are out of time. Thank you very much for joining us at the Market Site. And as always, thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, business correspondent with the Voice of America.